All right, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start with our standard disclaimer. This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number GS00F115CA with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred. We are excited today. We have some awesome stuff, like I have said. In today's session, we're going to welcome everybody and just say hello. And then we are going to talk about our grant deliverables, which everybody has been just chomping at the bit for. And then we have a lot of time for questions and answers. And then we, of course, will talk about some upcoming events and activities, and we will ask for your feedback. We have Miss Donna Savis-Burns joining us today. She is your DCE program officer. Hi, Donna.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. Lots of fun stuff to talk about.
Absolutely. And then we have me. I am Sarah Ruff, and I am super excited to be joining you today. So today our topic is all about deliverables. And we are going to talk for a long time today about the deliverables that are related to your grant. So this may be a great time for you to grab a piece of paper and a pen in case you want to take some notes, because we're going to go into some really deep detail about them. So I'll give you about 10 to 15 seconds to go ahead and grab anything to take notes with. In the cooperative agreement that you signed for your grant, Section 7 discusses the deliverables due as part of your grant requirements. The exact language from the cooperative agreement is listed here on the slide. And so I'm going to read that to you so that we all have the same information. It says deliverables, in addition to the relevant items described above, and they are talking about in your grant, the grantee will submit to the department at a minimum, A, its final research-based technical report, B, a presentation of its results, and C, a non-technical, public-friendly summary of the research and results. At a date to be determined, but at least 6 months in advance of the deadline, the department program officer will provide the specific content requirements for each of those deliverables to the grantee. So that's what we are doing today. And you'll have to excuse me, I just lost my notes on the other screen, and that's so fun. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a second and see if I can get those back. I apologize for the technical difficulties.
Great.
I want to make sure that I have all of the right information for you. Here we go. This should be working. Absolutely. All right. We can get back on track now. So we have our deliverables that we're talking about today, and those broke down to 3 types of deliverables. The first is the technical report. The second that we'll be talking about today is the non-technical report. And the third is a presentation. In our December Talking Circle, we discussed different ideas for these 3 deliverables. We heard all of your ideas. You guys had some really great ideas about adding presentations together, taking presentations and doing individual presentations. So OIE listened to all of your ideas and made decisions on exactly what they'd like to see for each of the 3 types of deliverables. And today we'll be outlining the specific content requirements for each of the deliverables on this for this grant. So the first is a technical report. A technical report is a detailed overview of how your grant has impacted your intended audience. It's a formal report that will include your data analysis and the results of your project. The technical report, the first of the 3 deliverables, is arguably the most important. This is the most detailed of all of your deliverables and the most professional. The goal of this report is to provide a formal analysis of the data that you've collected and to provide the results of your project within the context of the original intended outcomes. Over the next few slides, we're going to outline the very specific information that must be included in this report. But here, I just want us to pause and see that this is going to be the most detailed portion of what you're going to submit. It's also going to be the most formal of what you're going to submit. So let's jump into the technical report outline. The technical report is going to be broken up into different sections, and this is going to really feel like a research report. You're going to start with your abstract. The abstract is going to be 300 to 500 words that shares the highlights of the report. So when you think about your APR that you're turning in and how you have an executive summary for your APR, you're going to do the same sort of thing here with your abstract and just post it in those 300 to 500 words. Then you're going to, and in that 300 to 500 words, you're going to highlight what's going on in the project, maybe share some data analysis and findings, and just put, what are the really key points of what someone who's reading this would really want to dig into and know. Then we'll move into the introduction. The introduction is going to provide an overview of the project, and it's going to include things like the demographics of the participants, information about the community that's being served, maybe why the project was needed, and the intended outcomes for the project. Following the introduction, you'll have a summary of the objectives and procedures. And in that summary of objectives and procedures, you'll provide an overview of the work completed within the award timeline. In this section, you'll outline the GIPRA and project objectives. You'll explain the procedures that you took to meet these objectives. And you'll include any setbacks or changes, as well as how those events impacted the data. Finally, you'll provide a narrative overview of the budget expenditures, including the process used for the grant funding, such as how your drawdowns were impacted, how they impacted outcomes, how much funding was utilized in different areas of the project, and an explanation of why the monies were spent in a specific way. So an example of this might be, we spent $60,000 on a data analysis professional because it was important for us to have a strong understanding of what our data was revealing and why. None of the current leaders were well versed in data analysis, so this position allowed us to gain the knowledge while simultaneously freeing up other members of the team for additional duties. So you can see here, these in the first of these 7 sections, because there'll be 7 sections, you've got your abstract, your introduction, and your summary of objectives. We're going to pause here for a second so that you can take this all in. See if anybody needs to take any notes. Maybe think through some of that. And then we'll move on to the next section, the next portion, of the technical report. So there's 4 more sections. The next section would be the results and impact after your summary of objectives. In this section, you'll talk about the data that was collected, including how you collected it, why you utilized a specific method that you used, and any significant challenges to collecting the data. Then you'll provide a detailed analysis of the results, showcasing your findings. Be sure to discuss your progress towards the intended impact in detail. So this little portion right here is going to be really focused on your data, the results and impact. Following that section, you'll have the opportunity to discuss any lessons you learned throughout the grant award time period. This is a space where you can share your reflection on the processes, including what went well, what didn't go well, why did it not go well, or why did it go well? What would you do different? What would you do again? Maybe what would you not do again? And then you're going to explain why. In the sixth section, you'll discuss your sustainability plans for this project and share how your participation in the NYCP DCE grant will impact the future of your project, the future of your community, the future of your partnerships, etc. And then finally, you'll ensure that you have a conclusion to your report that accurately sums up your data and experience with the NYCP DCE grant award. I'm going to let you look over these sections just really quickly. And then I'm going to open it up for questions about deliverable 1, which is the technical report. And Casey's monitoring the chat for me. Casey, are there any questions in the chat maybe that haven't been answered?
Not right now.
Great. And does anyone have any questions about the technical report or deliverable 1? Maybe the pieces of it, what it might look like.
I have a question, Sarah. This is Alani.
Absolutely, Alani.
So we're sending this by email, and
Yes.
do I need to make sure that I have a paper copy or a hard copy?
I would definitely make sure that you have a copy, the grantee has a copy for themselves, and then send it over. You're going to send this over to your program manager, Miss Donna Sabas Burns, so that she can check everything. But I think it's a great idea, Olani, to have the technical report for you, because you can then further use this how you need to use it. So maybe you want to publish part of it in a journal. Maybe you want to publish part of it to your community or to the tribes that you're serving. This information, it's very technical, but you can publish this information. The next two reports the next two deliverables that we're going to talk about are probably an easier way to publish that information for anyone who wants to look at it. This again is the most research heavy portion. This is the part where OIE is looking at it and saying, what did you kind of get out of this experience of working with the grant? What does your data show? What were the lessons learned? How can we learn from what you did to help others in this space? That's what this technical report is. It's very research heavy, but as we move into deliverables 2 and 3, what you'll notice is that those are going to be much more stakeholder friendly, and they're a lot easier to get out to people. But great question. Thank you.
Thanks.
Do we have any other questions?
I see Donna answered part of Allison's question in the chat. So APA is preferred, but whatever works best for you all as far as formatting and a style guide to use for this particular deliverable. Sarah, is there a template?
There is not a template. No. So you get to use APA formatting, which is what Donna has stated, and just think about what could a research report look like. When I was actually looking up some different ways to do it, I will tell you that all of the different departments for Department of Ed all do it differently. There is not a specific way to do it. So I would, if it were me, pull up that APA formatting guide and utilize that as a way to help to set that up. Grammarly, if you subscribe to Grammarly, Grammarly is a free internet-based report writing helping tool. They do have several templates, and one of them is for a formal research report. And I think that's a great way you can pull that up and use that to start putting in the different, the 7 portions of what you'll have to put in this technical report, but that might be a help as well. That's a great question.
It is a good question. I also want to say that in all transparency, we haven't done one of these grants ever before. So this was an extension to, goodness, I think it was a 2015 grant original with NYCP. And Lauren, I see your question, and that's a good question too. And I'll try to answer that. So if your institution, organization has done any research projects before, and let's say you use MLA or whatever the preference is. I just prefer APA personally, but that's just my choice. So I leave that with, there's a lot of latitude for you guys to write this piece. There's no template, there's no style guide. So I'm wondering if we can do maybe the next, maybe a separate talking circle or something else to talk about how to do that. If there's some interest in that, in just writing this kind of technical report, we can get some examples together and show what it can look like. Let us know if that's something you would be interested in attending, and we can put some resources together for you. And Lauren, to answer your question, yes, it does, because the data extension grant, of course, this is an extension to that original NYCP grant, but it's just geared towards that data. So the report is going to be data heavy from the point of when the DCE portion started of your grant. And the background, of course, should be maybe the NYCP portion of the grant. And that will kind of set the framework, and then use the data collected during this time to embellish and tell the story. Does that help?
I think so. I mean, part of what we did with the DCE as a team was really going back and interviewing people who participated in NYCP.
Right.
And then put a data collection system in place for last year and this year. So I think we're going to combine those in the report.
Yep.
Okay.
That's, yeah, absolutely. And so you're going to be incorporating NYCP in pieces, either in your background and moving forward, or sprinkled throughout, whatever tells your story the best.
I am, and it sounds like as long as we, in good faith, present a really great product on all of that, there isn't like this major review board that's going to be
right. And that's the beauty of this. I mean, having it be, it's an original program, has its pluses and minuses, but this is one of the pluses, where usually at our department we're kind of giving you specifics, very, very specific. But you do have some creative flexibility here, as long as you're following the basic requirements. Everybody tells their stories a little differently, and we're just all using data to do that. So that's how you want to do it. And just think, but like Sarah referred to, you want to have a product that you can possibly use to submit to journals. I mean, this is good stuff that you guys are collecting, and knowing each of the projects that I've seen, this research, it won't be just to meet the requirements of this grant. We're hoping that you can spread the findings, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, out into the world. And this is that first step of getting you to do that.
And a good, I mean, like if we have a significant amount of qualitative and some quantitative, like it sounds like we have that latitude to choose what tells the story
Absolutely. Yep.
best.
You can
Okay.
do a mesh, you can do all qualitative, all quantitative, a mix of both, whatever tells your story.
Okay. I'm done taking the space. Thank you.
Oh, no, anytime. That's what it's for.
That's right.
Great-
We're a
great
talking
comment.
circle. That's right. Thanks, Lauren. And thank you, Donna. That was perfect. All right, so let's move on to number 2, our second deliverable. The second deliverable is a non-technical report. This is going to be much less formal than the first deliverable, the technical report that we just discussed. This is going to be a public-friendly summary of your research and results. This report represents a creative way of showing your work. with the broader community, and it may take the form of an executive summary or an infographic. And we're going to encourage you to create an infographic, as it's a really quick visual way to connect with your stakeholders. Infographics are easy to add to websites and other print materials. And although they look really complicated, they can be really, really easy to make. And executive summaries are great. I love an executive summary. That might be something that you present to a school board or to, any area that you need to present to. But an infographic is just a really easy way to have community members visually see the representation of what you've been doing. So we have an example here of 2 infographics. And these ones are pretty detailed, but you can see that the one on the left is a lot less words and a lot of graphics. The data is there. If you see, like in the Our Youth section at the bottom right hand of this first graphic, you can see that the data is really clear. We know that it's 35% female, 46% of those students are Latino, and that the average age is 13. So that's really easy to see. But the infographic just really highlights the data. The same thing is happening to the one on the right. It's just this one just has a lot more words. So it has the pictures. We have the percentages. 51.6% of AIAN adults do not meet the federal physical activity guidelines. We see the risk factors. We've got the scale and how many AIAN adults are obese with that 42.3%. And the graphic really sticks out. So this again is one of those things that you can push out to your community members and say, hey, this is what we've been working on. Here is, the data that we've collected and the impact that we've had based on the work that we've done. And you can highlight whichever data you would like. So yes.
And I think too, with the infographic, we are going to be sharing these out too. So
Yes.
not to put pressure on you guys, but don't try not to skimp in this area, because even if you have to use grant funds to help, someone to help design one for you, that's certainly allowable, because not only, of course, is this going to be representing the project that you did, but it's going to be representing, grant funds, and we will be sharing this out. And we are very proud of the work that you all have done and want to share it a lot. So your name's going to be on that. So I'm sure that, I don't mean to put pressure on you, but like I said, don't skimp on this part, and hire somebody if you think you need help with that. And yeah. That's all.
Thanks, Donna.
Sure.
So are there any questions about this deliverable, the non-technical report, which we are promoting an infographic for? Earlier, Donna was saying that, we can gather some possible future talking circle ideas. And one of them may be how to create an infographic, and what software can I use to do this? Are there free softwares out to do that? So that may be something that we want to discuss as well. But does anyone have any questions here?
I've heard of that, Lauren. Canva's good. Yep.
Canva is excellent. I use it all the time for infographics. Any other questions? Any from the chat, Casey?
No, I don't see any questions in the chat.
Great, thank you. All right, so we will move on to deliverable 3. So deliverable 3 is made up of 2 presentations. And this is where we took a lot of feedback from what you shared with us at our previous talking circle. So the first will be a full presentation. This will be a detailed 1 hour long presentation that includes the elements of and the components of your technical report. So remember that those were, the data, the findings, sustainability plans, all of those 7 key pieces are going to be right there. In your presentation, you won't need an abstract, but you may want to include that abstract underneath your presentation so we know what we're going to find in your presentation. But you'll have the overview of your project, your results and impact, your lessons learned, your sustainability plans. And then, of course, the thing that we all want to see, which is pictures or videos of your project in action. Maybe you have some videos of participants who wanted who have allowed you to share what their qualitative feedback was, if you did an interview, those kinds of things. And then secondly, you will use material from the full presentation to create a mini presentation. This presentation is going to be made up of 4 to 5 slides. It's going to be a high-level overview of the project. So one of the things that we heard you say in the January Talking Circle was that you'd be interested in creating a presentation for a conference such as NIEA, and doing it together. And we heard you, and we thought that that would be a great idea. And we would like to take each of your short mini presentations and put them together to make a larger presentation that showcases the amazing things that this grant award has done for you in your communities and in the communities that you've served. So again, you're going to have these 2 presentations. My suggestion is that you make this full presentation first, and it's going to include the elements of that technical report, pictures and videos and so on. And then from there, take a few of the slides that you created for your full presentation and put them together for a mini presentation. And we will take those for you and create a larger overall program presentation with each of your 4 to 5 slides that highlights the specific things that you have done with your grant. So that is the third one. Does anyone have any questions about deliverable number 3 and the presentations?
And with your fancy infographic, you have your handouts ready for you. So that will all be-
Exactly. I didn't think of that, Donna. That's so perfect. Your handout's done. You'll
Yep.
know which things you
Yep.
want to highlight
Yep.
in your presentation. That's perfect.
Yep.
We do have a question in the chat. The question was, do we need to plan for traveling somewhere to present?
I think not at this time, but I'm
Yeah.
going to let Donna take that one over. I think we'll have to decide where OIE would like to see this presentation happen. But Donna, go ahead.
Well, I need to think about that a little bit because I know most of us travel to NIEA, but that may not be possible for everybody. So I need to look at the parameters of when this grant was written back in FY18 and just see if that means there's been funds set aside for traveling. I need to look at that a little bit more in detail. That's a great question. To be continued.
Absolutely.
Allison, that's where we are very active with NIEA. But again, I don't want to require it in all in one place, but I just need to check and see if there are requirements in the guidelines for this particular grant. I just need to do some checking.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Donna, but part of the idea of having the mini presentation was also to be able to take and showcase this work that these grantees have done over the course of their grant and take that and showcase it in other places as well. So we're not talking about just using this information for a presentation specifically at NIEA, but maybe in other things that come up, maybe in a PD meeting that's coming up. We want to, highlight the work that you guys have been doing, right? Things like that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Casey. Thanks, Casey. I'm sorry. It's such a normal, NIEA is such a normal acronym in my vocabulary. I forget.
Yeah, I got it.
Mine too. I didn't state what that was either. Thanks for that check.
We love alphabet soup, as you know, so thank you for that. Call us out anytime. But yeah,
All right.
I think it's exciting. And I like the fact that for the PD meeting, I mean, there's so much potential that this has. And in the spirit, and to be fully transparent again, the people who wrote this particular grant, I don't think any of them are at OIE right now. And
Mhm.
so that's why I do have some creative flexibility, but that's why I want to go back and just make sure that I'm not going against what the intent on the regulations are. So, but this piece seems whatever fits best, but we'll get back to you on that.
All right, so now we're going to talk during the talking circle portion of this, and I'm going to open it up for you guys because I have done a lot of talking in this talking circle. So we have a big question for you. What content would you like us to think about adding to our talking circle sessions that would help you with these deliverables? So I know Donna talked about maybe having the opportunity for how to write a technical report. We've also talked about the opportunity to learn more about infographics. Is there an aspect of the deliverables that you may or may not have worked through before that you think would benefit from extra development?
And if you guys want to chime in the chat as well, I'll capture your responses from the chat.
Thanks, Casey. Maybe there's a portion of how to use different tools to capture your data, like in vivo for quantitative data. Maybe you need a refresher on that, or maybe there is, how do we capture our data and use transcription services like Otter to help us to code our data. Maybe you need some help with that. Go ahead and come off of mute if there's anything that you're thinking that might be helpful.
I wonder, do people even use SPSS anymore? Or is that dating myself?
No, I think people use SPSS. I will say, like, I favor in vivo over SPSS. I think it's a little bit more user friendly, but also
I'm sure.
it just depends on, like if you're an SPSS person, then in vivo may not be the right thing for you. I just love that the in vivo makes a little word cloud for you.
I'm SPSS on our campus, but for this project so far, we've done everything in Atlas TI because it was qualitative. But I have a feeling before we turn in the final report, we may be able to do a little bit in SPSS.
Sure.
So is that maybe something that others would like some help on? I know Lauren just said that he used the Atlas program, and so he is probably much more of an expert on that than me or some other people. Maybe Donna is an expert on SPSS. I love to use in vivo for qualitative work. Is that something that we're thinking may be helpful to some people?
This may be a goofy question, but could you explain what those two things are and how I would use them for my DCE?
Yeah, thank you, Alani. That's the researcher in me coming out that's like, oh yeah, SPSS in vivo, like kind of like Donna said, we like to talk in alphabet soup. So when you are running your data, these are systems that you can run your data through that will do the data analysis and help you do the data analysis a little bit more quickly and functionally than if you were just to do it by yourself over paper. And there's some tools that can help you with that. There are qualitative tools and there are quantitative tools. And SPSS and Atlas AI are some of those tools, and Vivo is a tool. And they all do the same process, just a little bit differently, and they kind of match like how your brain works, and what's easiest for you. So it's kind of fun to play around with all of them. They all have different features. One of the things that I love about in Vivo is that they pull up a word, like you put in your document, your interview, and it pulls up a word cloud, which helps you to really see like the impact of what people were saying. Like, did they say over and over again that this one thing stuck out to them in the program? Because that will be, the biggest word. So they also, some of those programs like SPSS will help you to analyze your data and to put it into really beautiful charts and graphs, so that you don't have to do all that work yourself over in Excel. Although you can do the work in Excel, SPSS just helps you to like move those functions around, and then you can just transfer those right over to an infographic or right over to a presentation. So those are things that may be helpful to some people if they are not, really entrenched in the research world. It's also a place where you can reach out to your colleagues and say, like, who has had some time and some expertise with some of these things. I'm going to delegate this portion of these 3 deliverables to you. Great question, Alani. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else with some ideas for content that you would love to see us add to our deliverables, to our talking circles, that would help you with deliverables? All right, so let's talk about due dates. Your deliverables will be due, all 3 of them, on September 29th, 2023. All of your final products will be submitted through email to your program manager. So you will email those to Miss Donna Sabas-Burns. And our next question is, would you like the opportunity to submit a draft of your deliverables to OIE or to us here at OIE at SEI Services for feedback? Is that an opportunity that anybody would like to take advantage of? You can either come off mute to talk about that or go ahead and put it in the chat.
Nobody wants any feedback?
None.
Oh,
They're just going to do it, Donna.
sorry.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Oh, I think I heard Scott for a second.
Are you
Oh,
able
I'm
to hear
sorry.
me? I'm sorry, I'm using someone's, I had to go to a different office. We have like no internet in most of the
Oh, no.
city. We have our cell tower down. It's been a crazy day, but
Oh,
um,
no.
I think if it's anything like, especially the technical report, maybe to do that and have some feedback, because if it's something that we do need corrections on, it seems that that will be the one component that
Yep,
we'll need to work more on to make sure that we have
Yep.
everything necessary.
I agree.
Awesome.
Yep.
So then, Scott, what would be a good time frame for you to be able to give that feedback, knowing that September is, when we have to have everything due? What would be, great for you or for any of the other DCE grantees to say, like, we'd love to have feedback by, August, October. Well, not October, because that's afterwards, but.
I would think by probably mid-August, pardon me. And
Okay.
then the other question is, let's say that if we didn't do that, and then we turn in the report on September 29th, what would happen if it's not correct or that it needs more information? Would you allow us to do that, or is it just going to be submitted as is if we don't have a first submission to be reviewed?
That's a good question. I am thinking, because it's technical, we probably need to do some kind of a checklist to make sure you guys feel comfortable with meeting those steps. I mean, we're not going to be grading you on it. But it's more that we do want to have something of higher quality as the finished product. I think we're really going to be pushing to have some feedback sessions. The only problem is, and I think this is somewhere either on the slide after this or soon after, if you do submit for feedback, then you allow about 2 weeks for us to get back to you, and that we probably need to do that cutoff of, I can't remember what the date is. Sarah can address that in a minute. But it's kind of like when you submit an APR or your final report, for example. If you submit and it doesn't have all the components in that we really need you to be doing, you're not going to have met substantial progress on your deliverables. So it does need to follow some kind of expectation. So I want us to be a little bit more clear with that with you, so you all feel comfortable with that. This is a type, because it's an extension grant, the likelihood for a no-cost extension, I don't know how well we're going to be pushing and hard we're going to be pushing for that, because we want everything to be done at the end of the period, so we can, like Sarah said, we can put it all together and have it for specific uses come October 1 and after. So it would behoove you to finish it up. But I get it. You need to have some kind of content guidelines and so forth. So let me get some more information on that for you. Does that help at all? I feel like
That's
us
very
talking
helpful,
in
yes.
circles.
Well, and I think so. It sounds like we can kind of submit it ongoing for feedback in different parts,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I think some of the data stuff we are probably going to want to submit by like June, and then maybe if Scott
Right.
wanted to submit like the financial portions of the report at a different time, or and then we present the whole package together. Like, I would like to see if we could get a first review on some of the research portion of it, like maybe June-ish, because we'll need 3 months if something's not right.
Exactly.
So.
Yep. And we have to also keep in mind that because we are so short-staffed here, we're going to be running potentially some competitions all through the summer. So being mindful of that. So the sooner the better for us to give you that first draft feedback, that just to keep that in the back of your head.
And I think one of the things that Donna brought up, the checklist, is adding the checklist as a great way to meet steps. That sounds like something that we can work on. And one of the other possible talking circles was to how to write the technical report. That maybe we add the checklist to that and present that to you at the talking circle. That may be a little bit easier. And so we can focus on that, and we'll talk to Donna and then Sarah Brightwell as well about what that looks like. And we will get back to you very quickly about that, because we know you want to start working on that technical report.
Right.
Great, good ideas. Thank you. So then as we move forward, let's talk about credit on materials. It's a great time to review this. As you're working on creating your deliverables, please remember that you must include credit on materials that you create related to your grant. So all of the information is here on the slide, and I'll go over that with you. So grantees must include a disclaimer language when publishing or disseminating any grant project materials. So this is the disclaimer language right here in the second bullet. It says the contents of this, and then you're going to insert your type of publication. So you'll say technical report or infographic or presentation were developed under a grant from the U.S. Department of Education. However, those contents do not necessarily represent the policy of the U.S. Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government. Edgar, and then that funky little S's, and then 75.620, and then you'll add the link as well. If you wish to use the department's official seal on materials that you produce, the approval is granted by the Office of Communications and Outreach, or OCO. And for approval to access and use the seal, the program offices or their grantees can contact the OCO. And you can see that information is also listed here at the bottom of the screen. So you can contact them at 1-800-872-5237, or you can email them at edpublications@ed.gov. And that's if you want to put the department seal on any of your materials. If you want to put like the seal at the bottom of your infographic, if you want to place it on the bottom of the slides, just like we have, you can see on our slides over here, we've got the Department of Education slides or seal on our slides. So you will have to reach out to the Office of Communications and Outreach to be able to do that. And then if you have any questions about credit on your materials, you are always able to email your program officer or to reach out with any questions to oei@sceiservices.com for any of those. Does anyone have any questions on credit on materials?
So the disclaimer, if we choose to use that, we'll take up one of the 4 to 5 slides. I'm just kidding.
Actually, that's great. We probably could put that at the beginning for everybody, but make sure that it's on your larger presentation. That was good though. All right. So again, some time for you guys to talk instead of me lecturing. What initial ideas do you have for your deliverables? Now that you know what OIE is looking for, let's go ahead and share some initial ideas that you have. Maybe you're thinking about a creative graphic you want to use or an idea for a theme for the group presentation. Let's open up and talk and chat with each other about ideas that you have for yourselves, or maybe since you know each other so well, some ideas that you have for each other. Now I know that you guys have some ideas. You're already thinking, how am I going to do this? What graphics do I want to do for this? What themes do I want to use? Does anyone want to share any of those initial things that they're thinking about?
Has anybody wrapped up their data, or are you still trying to get some more in there? Collection, meaning data collection.
I can answer this for our team if everyone's okay with that.
We love it.
Okay. Scott or Allison or Melissa, you can jump in if you want. I think we are collecting, because a lot of what we have, like basically COVID was this big divider between the original
Yep.
grants and the DCE extensions. And so we collected a lot of data looking back at the 5 years of the NYCP grant. And now and then we put in a new data collection system of just surveys, and then also like an even more robust one that Melissa's been helping out with this year. It's a work in progress, and we're working on it. And so we're trying to, I think we're going to update the report that we already had written to include current data to just show like the progress that was being made, the COVID dip and the challenges, and then the progress that's been recouped since then. If that sounds like, hopefully that sounds like a good arc and you are thinking that would be good. So we are collecting data.
Great.
Yes.
It's a good story to tell.
And it makes the
Awesome.
grant look really good, and the team that Scott's built look really good, because it is all bouncing back from like all the challenges that existed for the original grant to address got way worse during COVID.
Exactly. I mean, I know when the grantees had like a whole bunch of people set for data collection, and then bam, COVID and everything just changed, everything. And so the story is going to be very compelling. A piece of this that we weren't ever planning on telling, but it's going to be, at least hearing about some of the projects that are being done. It's exciting. I'm very excited to be able to share the outcomes of this particular grant.
Awesome. Cool.
Thanks for sharing.
Yes, a great resilient story, Olani.
And
I
I think
agree.
Melissa and I had a meeting with I believe Sarah Brightwell and also with Blue Lake Rancheria, and OIE is coming to film and kind of give us some professional reels, I guess you would say. So to include those with our presentation as well, to kind of show how the large area, the number of miles in our service area, and kind of coincides with the data we collected about how rural and distant everything is.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Scott, you got a
Right.
leg up there. You can take some of that video footage and add it to your presentation.
Yeah.
That's nice. Great. Does anyone have any final questions regarding the deliverables? Any questions that you have regarding talking circles or future talking circles or upcoming dates for due dates?
I think everyone's provided us, you've given us a lot of things to give us some homework. So
Absolutely.
this so this is great. Wasn't expecting that. And this is exactly what we needed. So we appreciate that feedback.
Absolutely.
And Sarah, I'm wondering if for the ones that weren't able to attend today, that we ask them for their input as well. Maybe say, hey, this is what was brought up. Does anyone have any additional things that they would like? Because I really was hoping everybody could be on here for this particular reason.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely. I will make sure that we add that to our to-do list. Thank you.
And I
Great.
just I think if we're going to meet in person with NIEA, if that's going to be required, just to know that as soon as possible, just because of our summers are really busy, I know, with all the youth, and that would be fantastic.
Mhm.
Yes, and NIA doesn't take place until October, which may be even a non-starter because that's going to be after the grant period ends, I believe. So that could be in and of itself just a non-starter. I just need to do my homework and see about that. Because by saying that, you just made me realize that usually it's held like the first or second week of October. And since the grant period ends, I believe September 30th, then you can't incur expenses after that grant period. Even if we were given no cost extensions out, you can't incur expenses after. So that probably is not even an option at this point, but we can for you also, while we're there, we can take that short reel, make it into a big reel and brag. We claim bragging rights.
That's right.
And I do want to point out Olani's comment in the chat for those of you that are gathering videos and pictures for your presentations. Make sure that you have media releases for the videos and pictures that you're sharing. So just be aware of that as you're collecting things to include.
Thank you, Olani. We will add that to the checklist. All right, so we have several reminders and announcements before we close out our session. We have lots of upcoming events for you. Your DCE APR webinar will be on March 28th. And we have added an additional all APR talking circle. And that will be for everybody to review any questions that you have about APRs and give you some time to think on that. And that will be on April 20th. So go ahead and mark your calendars for that. Your regular DCE program talking circles the next one will be May. Gosh, that seems so long from now, and it's not really that long. And then August. And And we will continue to have monthly office hours. The next office hours will be on March 23rd, and they are on the 4th Thursday of each month. All right, so speaking of APRs, as you are preparing for your APR, please make sure that you're reviewing your performance measures. Make sure you've got appropriate data collection methods and tools to report on both your GPRA and project measures. Make sure that you review your data collection tools and methods, even though you may not have a complete set of data. Make sure that you have all the information that you need to report on your GPRA measures. And then make sure that you check with your budget office regarding drawdowns. Check in with that fiscal staff. Take time to reconcile the expenditures you have, including drawdowns. Make sure you're checking your budget categories and line item expenditures, and identify how often drawdowns are being made and any challenges related to budget. So this would be a great time to contact your budget people and say, hey, I need that information, because we know it takes them a little bit of time. Remember that your APR preparation webinar is March 28th, and your due date for your APRs is April 28th, a month later.
And we'll be doing a lot more, providing you a lot more information. A common question we get, since the grant is ending, do we do an APR or just do the FPR and include this? So you are required that annual performance report for this particular budget year, and then 120 days after the grant finishes, or if there is a no cost extension, 120 days from that ending point, that's when the final report, which is of course comprehensive and inclusive of all the years of this particular DCE grant.
Exactly. Thank you, Donna. Then we have our follow-up with our student artist competition. We are so excited to hear from our student artists in all of the different ways that they present art, through painting, drawing, printmaking, narrative essays, a performance piece, through video. We are really, really looking forward to having lots and lots of youth enter our student artist competition. Remember that the theme is I am the future. And so if you have any connections to anyone who oversees Native youth, or, even if you're sending it out to your cousin or your brother, have them send in those entries. All entries must be submitted online by March 29th, and you can get more information at the tiny URL link that I believe Casey will be putting up shortly. If you have any other questions, you may email sac@seiservices.com, and we will be sure to answer those. But we really, really want to see all of the different myriads of types of art and all of the things that students are submitting for the I Am the Future. We also want to make sure that we say that this is for American Indian, Alaskan Native, and Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander artists. It is not just American Indian students or American Indian youth. It is a very inclusive art competition, and we'd love to see things from all over. And then don't forget, we have our project director meeting June 6th through 8th from 12 to 6:30 Eastern. Our theme this year is Rooted in Sovereignty, and we are very, very excited. We've been working very hard on making sure that we have sessions that you are going to enjoy. Remember that project directors are required to attend, but the entire team can come with you to learn more and gather some really great PD. So it is that time to give us some feedback. We would love to get your input. We have a poll for end of session feedback. This is really important to us as it helps us to improve our technical assistance and support. So we really appreciate you taking time to fill out this poll. We will leave it up there for just a little bit. And as you're answering that, I will share with you. Don't forget that if you have any changes for emails, if you need to add anyone, or if you need to, you know, put additional team members on, please make sure that you can send us that information to oie@seiservices.com. You will need to make sure that you CC your program officer, especially if you have any changes to the project director or authorized representatives. When you're emailing, it's always helpful if you include your name, your role, your email address, and your PR number. And you can reach out to us at any time if you need anything. Your TA team is here for you, so you can contact us at that email address, oie@seiservices.com. You can also use our Calendly link to schedule a coaching session for one-on-one support in either 1 hour or 30-minute sessions, and we are happy to help with anything. If you want us to just take a look at your infographic and say, hey, does this stick out? If you want us to look at some data, or if you're like, hey, you were talking about in vivo, you were talking about SPSS, what do these things mean? We're happy to jump on and chat with you about those things. And then finally, we thank you so much for joining us for this talking circle. Remember that you can reach out to your DCE program officer and discretionary group lead, Dr. Donna Savis Burns. Her email is there on the screen. You can also email the technical assistance team at any time. Please make sure to include your grantee name and your PR number when emailing us. And as always, we love for you to follow us on Twitter at OIE Indian Ed. We have a lot of things that are going on Twitter. We love to post about all the amazing things, and maybe one day you'll see your infographic up there. You never know. Thanks so much for joining us today. We will stick around if anybody has any questions, but we hope you have a great rest of your day.